Hello all, I want to make a video for the few Phainon believers still out there. I scrolled through the Reddit on the Phainon mains and husbando mains. A lot of people are saying they're going to quit because of Phainon. They're not going to pull for Phainon anymore. Pathetic, right? Pathetic. Now, I did use my Phainon funds on my day a while ago. I had 400 plus pulls. This account was originally supposed to be for Phainon, but I folded for my day, right? But I'm still going to go for, Phainon anyways, even though there's going to be some annoyance with my day wanting Sunday and my Phainon wanting Sunday, right? But I truly think Phainon will be fine. At the end of the day, as someone who has been through over a year of beta cycles at this point, it is quite common for people to really over-exaggerate how bad a character is in beta. Almost every single time. Cassie is basically an exact replica of what is currently going on with Phainon, where she was semi-underwhelming compared to the rest of the version 3 DPSs in her earlier versions, and I made a video that got not too good of a like to dislike ratio saying that I don't want her to get buffed because Hyacinth is 100% going to release as her best in slot, and then if she gets buffed plus Hyacinth, she's going to be some really big power creep, right? But people didn't care. People kept complaining. They kept saying, oh, this character needs a buff, blah, 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 blah. And then when she got Hyacinth, she became the strongest DPS in the entirety of the game. And now people are complaining about Castris breaking the game after they fucking begged for it, right? And so Phainon would legit be no different. Phainon is in the current situation Castris was in, but it makes more sense for Phainon to follow Castris's power level, right? I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, waifu privilege, right? And honestly, yes. The truth of the matter is that Hoyo is always going to sell their Annie units as woman. And I'll be fucking surprised if they ever do an Annie where the main focused, unit isn't a woman, because it just leads to much better sales, right? Anniversaries are what get new players into the game, and that is what a new player is gonna want. A character who can trivialize all the endgame content and make the game 100 times more comfortable and enjoyable for them. Hoyo isn't stupid. They are a gacha company, right? They could technically do this for a Phainon type character as well. Give him Cassie's kit, give him the Cassie treatment, but he just won't sell the same as compared to a woman. I have the perfect example for this being my cousin. My cousin legit visited me like a week or two ago, telling me that he got back into HSR because of me and because he saw Castris, right? He told me that he came back during the Annie, he came back for Castris, he pulled Castris, he pulled Jiaoqiu for his Acheron, and all that good stuff, right? He said, I fucking love Castris, she looks hot as fuck, right? And that is the casual audience for you right there, right? Right fucking there is your proof in the pudding that putting a woman as the Annie unit will simply always make more money for Hoyo than putting the male. Right, so let's finish with that, right? I have many reasons to believe Phainon will be fine. I'm not an emotionally invested person when it comes to making most of my takes on character kits, right? However, Phainon should be completely fine. We have had a perfect example of Phainon's same exact situation right now, being Rappa and Fugue, where Fugue was still a good support for the other break DPSs, but she was 100% tailor-made to make Rappa's value a lot higher compared to the others, right? And Saridra shouldn't be anything different. She should still be a general support, a harmony, who a lot of people can take advantage of in this game, but she will have a bias towards Phainon and elevate Phainon's performance more than any other character in the game, right? You gotta keep in mind that Phainon really isn't all that much weaker compared to Castris as people are trying to make him out to be, right? What I'm saying by this is Casterus needs like 4 to 5 cost to defeat the exact same Svarog that Phainon can 1 to 2 cost, right? The exact same Svarog that Phainon can 1 to 2 cost, Casterus needs like 5, right? And even if you don't want to use Svarog because of the shield buff, you can use Hule in the patch right before, right? The MOC rotation before the 3.41 with the shield buff, you can use that as an example as well. Phainon can also 1 to 2 cost that Hule boss, I believe, right? 0 cycle. Casterus needs like 5 cost, right? And I want to bring this up because a lot of people lie when it comes to Casterus and Herda. Oh my god, these guys trivialize all the endgame content and they can 1 to 2 cost literally everything in the game. No, they fucking can't. No, they fucking can't, right? Even Cassie needs Tribby Hyacine, the ultimate wheelchair comp, with her to actually perform well in single target scenarios compared to some other blast and single target damage dealers, right? Herda is the exact same, if not worse than Cassie. Her single target damage is just so fucking abysmal if she doesn't have a Noxa. Especially with the recent HP inflation, you feel it a lot more. You guys need to keep in mind that Herda's debut MOC rotation had way less HP than Phainon's debut MOC rotation, and she had Trotters. There are no mechanics to make Phainon's MOC rotations any easier on the bosses. They have the exact same HP as the Nikador MOC, if not more, with no mechanics to make them easier. So yes, Phainon is 100% stronger than a lot of people are letting on. A lot of people are being disingenuous and overhyping Herda and Casterus to make Phainon look as if he's some baby next to grown-ass men. Right? The truth is, it's actually close, and Phainon is better and usually blast and single target content than Casterus or Herda, but he is noticeably worse in APOC in Pure Fiction currently. That is true, right? So what do you do to combat this, right? What can the devs do to fix this? Well, let me bring something up to you guys, being the MOC buffs. We've had this with Rappa, we've had this with Hyacine. They foreshadow the buffs of a support for a DPS through the MOC buff. They did this with introducing Exo Toughness in an MOC rotation. They did this with introducing the max HP buff plus HP return upon being hit, which is what Hyacine does. And there is currently a Flame Reaver in the 3.4 Apocalyptic Shadow that gives an extra turn every time you defeat one of his clones, right? And the reason I thought this was interesting is because if we were to hypothetically, right, let's say Ceredra's extra turn buff is actually tied to Resurgence, right? Or it's something like you can get 1 or 2 extra turns, but if you want any more extra turns, you're going to need to kill mobs to reproc this, right? This would be the best case scenario for Phainon's kit, and I really just don't think that this is a coincidence in the slightest, because it's a little too coincidental to be on his patch's APOC, right? Now, Phainon's weakest modes are obviously APOC and Pure Fiction, but theoretically, if he were able to get an extra turn every time he killed an enemy, which is basically like Seal's Resurgence, he would get double the turns in basically any Pure Fiction. All he needs to do is kill 1 mob to get an extra turn, right? So he gets double the turns in Pure Fiction, and he likely gets like double the turns in most APOCs, right? Like, let's say you put him against the True Sting APOC. Holy fuck, right? Or you put him against Flame Reaver, right? If Ceredra's buff can be like a Resurgence proc, Phainon in his weakest modes would massively suddenly like spike up in terms of performance, and he will still benefit from this Resurgence type thingy in MOC, just not as much as his weakest modes, right? So it'll be like evening out his, viability in all endgame modes, right? It massively elevates his performance in the weaker ones, and in the one he's already good at, it does still help him and elevate his performance, but it's not going to be as crazy as the other ones, right? It's going to be a little more balanced. And this would be, once again, too perfect to be a coincidence because of how well it fits with his kit. So Saridra will likely have this extra turn buff that, if I had to guess, will be similar to Resurgence for Phainon. This would massively skyrocket his Pure Fiction AoE performance, it would skyrocket his APOC performance, and it would also noticeably increase his MOC performance, not only because of the extra turns, but also Saridra should have a really nice buff for Phainon, if I had to guess. We've already been leaked that she might have a 1-turn ult buff that gives a very, very massive like damage upgrade, which could be very, very, very nice for Phainon. So he gets a damage upgrade, he gets extra turns even in just MOC, and then in his weakest modes he legit gets double the turns. Sounds absolutely broken, right? Now, I would like to end this video off by saying to people, I understand why people, want to give up on this guy, but you guys need to realize that this is a team game. Once again, I brought it up earlier in the video, but a lot of people like to overhype Herta and Castris. They really aren't all that, right? They just aren't all that in the slightest. Everybody's acting like they can one cost every single endgame mode in the game. No, right? Phainon, even compared to the other version 3 DPSs in Herta and Castris, is balanced, right? If we're talking about a Castris with no Hyacine and Tribby, holy fuck, good luck, man. Yeah, good luck, right? Or even just no Hyacine. Hyacine massively increases Castris' single target performance. The reason for this being is that her charging efficiency for Castris is so incredibly strong, as this is how you mainly make Castris single target really strong, right? You want to constantly explode the dragon, get the ult up as fast as possible, explode the dragon again. That is how Castris works in single target scenarios, right? If you don't use Hyacine, this falls off a fucking cliff, right? It completely falls off a cliff in single target scenarios. There's way worse charging efficiency for Cass. She'll get like 1 or 2 less ults off in a cycle, and it's way worse, right? The exact same thing applies to Herta. You put Herta in a single target scenario completely, holy fuck, she feels like complete dog shit to play, especially with the current HP that bosses have, right? Like 3 to 4 million on a Hule. Like Herta single target damage is like 2 to 300k, right? 2 to 300k is fucking tickling the boss, and she has downtime on this ult, right? You use her with no Inoxa, no Tribby, it's going to feel like complete dog shit in any single target scenario, right? Phainon is no different. He does not have his designated support, and he does not have his designated support sustain, right? They're coming out a patch after he releases, and then a patch after Saridra. So people being disingenuous and using Castris with Hyacine and Tribby, or Herta with Hyacine and Inoxa, versus fucking Phainon with Ting Yun, RMC, and Branya. Why the fuck are we doing this? Phainon is going to be fine. Phainon's going to be strong. He's not going to be a Firefly situation, and I can't wait to pull him and play him myself. Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.